Okay, so after numerous of tests, I think AirPods do work better. Sorry, I'm dressed up, gayer than usual, more. I also think I have to just speak up in general because I know, like, I feel like my subconscious is like, okay, we're in the library, so we can't be speaking up too much. Um, I'll move this chair out of the way. But also, right now I'm on the third floor, which is reserved for being like the quietest um, up here. But I think I should be fine. The glasses are probably thick enough. Um, Nevertheless, welcome back. Am I rolling? Are we rolling? We are rolling. Welcome back to another episode of Chris's Rambles. This welcome sign is a little smaller just because I'm in uncharted territory. I'm not in the usual room that I usually record these in. Someone reserved it, and someone reserved this room. Hell, but there's somebody in here, so I kind of just took it for myself. It's one of my big issues with this school. Too many people reserve these rooms without actually coming to these rooms, and it pisses me off because now these rooms are just sitting unoccupied when people like me need them. Maybe not need, but more or less just want. What to talk about? I actually don't know. I'm not, as you know, none of these are rehearsed. None of these have scripts. None of these are written down. These are all on the fly. They're all in here. And boy, there's nothing in here. Um, let's talk about the Beatles. I know yesterday we discussed, or in this time period, yesterday I talked to you about how wanting to go to one of their shows, and I want you to know a little bit about them before we go. Well, I am acting like we're seeing the real deal, but the group that we're seeing is actually like known, like famous for being like the closest to what they actually sound like, not only looks but sound. Now, that's my big thing. I mean, they can look like a bunch of idiots, but if they sound like them, that's good enough for me. I'd rather it'd be worse for me for the Magic if they look just like them, but they don't sound like them. That's worse to me, at least. I don't know. I don't know for the average person, maybe it's different. But you got your four members. You got your four members. You have John, illustrated by this guy. Eh, You have Paul, illustrated by this guy. And then you have George, my favorite. And then you have Pete Best, the original drummer for the Beatles. Was this guy named Pete Best. Now he was with them for like the early years. Like if you listen to like their early footage, you're not gonna see Ringo. You're gonna see this guy. But then he was kind of kicked out because they just felt like he wasn't what they needed, and that's gonna be an issue later. That's a problem for future me. So then they hired they have space. So then they got this guy named Ringo Starr with his big funny nose. And boy, was he so much better for the group. He was able to like, this guy was like, he kind of changed the world of drumming because he's like regarded as like one of the best drummers, or one of the like most influential drummers of all time. This guy's also left-handed with Paul, but he used a right-handed kick, which had some issues, kind of, but low key made him sound a lot better. But overall, it was just the best option as opposed to Mr. Best. Love the guy, but Ringo's kind of better. Um, John plays guitar, Paul plays bass, George also plays guitar, and Ringo plays drums. Um, it was kind of like a big decision for who was going to be playing bass, because Paul plays guitar. Like that's what he like originally played, but they knew they needed a bassist, so he was like, I'll just take the bullet, because they knew like bassist was kind of like like the best, who was going to have the best responsibility to be the bassist. So Paul was like, you know what? I'll be the bassist. No worries, fellas. That's my Paul impression. And they released their very first album in March 22nd, 1963. Yeah, it was recorded. It was called "Please Please Me." Please please me. Please, yeah. and it was a revolutionary hit. I think I even told you um, that it stayed number one in the UK charts up until they released their second album later in 1963, um, which is called With the Beatles, and it stayed number one until the second one released. Their only competition was themselves. How cool is that? This album was also released on November 22nd, 1963. Um, which is cool because they're one of their biggest albums. Well, yeah, their longest album, which is the White Album, was later released in 1960. Oh shit, 1968. The White Album. Well, it's a self-titled album. Like the actual album's name is The Beatles, but it's just regarded as the White Album because it's just white. You know what I mean? But these two albums were released on the same day. Well, years apart, of course, but they were both released on November 22nd to the prior years, the day before my birthday, which is kind of cool. Um, Nonetheless, oh yeah, four groups, and then yeah, so the first album, Please Please Me, and then we have with the Beatles, and then their next album, which is like debatably their best album, which was later released in 1964, um, A Hard Day's Night, A Hard Day's Night. Holy shit, this album's good. This was also their first album to not include any covers, because at the time it was common for like an album to have covers, you know. Um, this was the first album that it was just pure Beatles music, and it's one of the debatably like for the longest it was my favorite album from them. I don't know the exact date, but if you also can tell, A Hard Day's Night is also the name of their film. This was the soundtrack associated with the album. Their album later, which was also released in 1964, um, it's called Beatles for Sale. Beatles for Sale. I'm not gonna lie, chat. This album's kind of mid. I love them, but this album's it's okay. It also has like a lot of covers too. Not a lot, but like it's a good album. It's not the album I would recommend when showing people the Beatles. Like A Hard Day's Night is like one of the albums like I would show like hey, if you want to get into them, this is the album to listen to. Um, Kind of shows like all like the creative side. You know, you have And I Love Her, If I Fell, even the self-titled A Hard Day's Night is like one of their best songs. Um, Beatles for Sale, it's good. It has a couple of tracks that I listen to occasionally, but their other albums, I'm not gonna lie, they're kind of way better. And then you head over to hang on, Beatles for Sale. I think their next album's this is until Rubber Soul, which was released in 1965. I'm like 99% sure. Yeah, it's really 1965. Rubber Soul. Whoa, this album was good. During this time period, 1964, they kind of got into a lot of controversy. This was a shit show year for them. They were having an interview. They were talking, you know, one of them was like, "Oh, like, what do you think about all the fame you guys have been getting?" And Lennon, this genius, this guy had the ingenious idea of saying, "Oh my gosh, you know, we're practically bigger than Jesus," and the whole world was in shambles because they were kind of processing as the fact that like, oh, the Beatles were saying like, "Oh yeah, we're more famous than Jesus," and you have all these Christians like, "No," and they started like boycotting them. You know, they were giving them death threats. They were being threatened of being deported. They were like people were burning their records in big old flames, and they were just trying to boycott them. So they were like, yeah, let's not tour. They canceled all their tours, and they spent more time in the studio to create this banger. This may almost also refer as to the Weed album because at this time they kind of discovered the drug weed, and they were high making this album. They kind of I don't think it kind of shows, but like I think if you really listen to it, you can probably tell. But Rubber Soul, one of my favorite. Uh, Michelle is my favorite. One of my favorite songs of all time. It's debated. I can argue that it is my favorite Beatles song. Um, Such a good album though. And now at this time, at this point of time, they're spending. Wait a minute. No, before Rubber Soul. Ignore everything I just said. Before Rubber Soul, there's the album Help. I think it was 1964. Help. What was I going with this? Yeah, Help. This is when they released their second film. Um, and the album like the self-titled track, um, Help. This album is so good. Even like the beginning track, like the opening track, one of my favorite songs of all time. It's actually like a like Lennon wrote it as like a personal like not vendetta, but like it was like a genuine like cry for help. Like this guy was like not okay, and although like he loved the song, the one thing he didn't like about it was like how fast paced it was. Because like if you read the lyrics, it's like depressing as hell, and it's like this upbeat song. And that was like his main issue that he didn't really like about it. Was like how it's meant to be depressing. Why is there like when I was young and so much younger than today? You know what I mean? But it's a phenomenal song. Even this album is super good. You got bangers like Ticket to Ride, um, Should Have Known Better. No, not Should Have Known Better. The Night Before. Sorry, Should Have Known Better than a Hard Day's Night. And then, okay, then after that, then you got to Rubber Soul. This is when this whole controversy is sparked. And now they're spending more time in the studio. And you can kind of tell, like, with certain elements that they're using. Then after Rubber Soul, you got Banger. In 1965, I think. Might be 66 now I think about it. We're gonna roll with 65. If it's 66, let me double check. Stick out my butt. My phone won't load. Yep, that's right. Also, Help was released in 1965. Sorry. Help was released in 1965. Rubber Soul was released in 1965 as well. Whereas Revolver, their next album, one of my favorites, 1966, you have the album Revolver. Now, at this point in time, they were really spending a whole lot of their time in the studio. Um, they were like because at this time like they weren't doing any tours. They were only performing live. Up until this point, they haven't performed like their last concert was like around like at this time 65, and then they just kind of stopped. Because the whole controversy, they're like, yeah, let's just not do another concert. Let's just not get killed because they were literally getting death threats. Um, so in 1966, they released their album Revolver. Holy shit! This thing took the media by storm. They were like, what the fuck are we listening to? Because keep in mind, this is 1966, and they were like starting like using like distortion in their songs. They were starting like use like weird elements, harmonies. Listening to it on its own, it didn't really feel like a Beatles album. You think of like I Want to Hold Your. This is like the band who made. This is the same band who made I Want to Hold Your Hand. That made this. You know what's going on? Banger album. Yeah, songs like Here, There, and Everywhere. One of my favorite songs. Even the opening track, Attacks Man, really great. Whole lot of psychedelic elements. This is when they started taking LSD, and it really shows in their next album, which was, isn't it? Sorry, I don't know which one was first released. Yeah, okay, and then you have one of their best albums. Not even one of their best. Debatably one of the best albums of all time, released in 1967. 67. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Honey, this is one of the albums to listen to. Um, this album's actually really. It's like this thing took like the media by storm because this was like their like genuine first psychedelic album, but it was also like when you started like it was like a long, I would say like a long project, but like at first like it started with like the first song, then it opened to this next song, basically like all like one big song into this one big album, and it was like pretty early at its time. Now it's like a little more common. You look at Pink Floyd, The Wall, uh, which is basically all like one big song. Even like Dark Side of the Moon. Listening to it just feels like one big song. This album pioneered the idea. You got bangers like even the opening track which is self-titled like Started with Lonely Hearts Club Band, which follows by a little help. Uh, I get by a little help from my friends. And even the last song of this album, "A Day in the Life," "A Day in the Life," highly regarded as being one of the best songs of all time. I'm gonna sing to this song randomly, and I just need you to listen to it because this is regarded as like one of the best songs of all time. Not only one of the best Beatles songs, but one of the best songs of all time. This song cannot get enough plays. This shit was revolutionary. This song is so good. Love it. And then right after that, in 1967, again, you got Magical Mystery Tour. Magical Mystery Tour. Right? Am I stupid? Yeah, okay. And then you got their and oh, keep in mind this album's really. I mean, even the album cover really colorful, right? This album even more colorful. This is the important layer. Even more color. Magical Mystery Tour. This album was actually really good. Now, there's two songs that are featured in this album that were supposed to be released into Sergeant Pepper's, but it wasn't, and that was a terrible idea. That was one of my one of like the dumbest decisions they could ever make. They thought about putting two of their two of their best songs, "Strawberry Fields Forever," "Penny Lane." Two of my one of my favorite Beatles songs. They thought about putting those two bangers into Sergeant Pepper's. That would have made that album a perfect million out of 10. I mean, it's still a 10 out of 10 album, but holy shit, that would have made the album a million times better. And they're like, nah, let's just release it as a single. Yeah, stupid. Sorry, people are looking at me. Super stupid. I don't. I mean, it's a great album. It's a great album. The self-titled track "Magical Mystery Tour" was featured in the Minecraft movie. Um, but it's a really good album. I love it. And then right after this, you have these two colorful albums. And then the next album, people were like, what the fuck are they going to release next? It was later released in 1968, the White Album, which is like, which I was trying to give you like that symbolism. You have colorful to blank. And people were shitting their pants. It was good. It was a great album. White Album has hits like that one song I showed you, I Will, which reminds me of you a lot. Even this, the opening track, Back in the USSR, really good. I think that's a song that no, it's also followed up by they're keeping like the same principle where like the first song is followed by the next, and then you have more other songs. Um, Dear Prudence is just one of my favorite songs to play. It's also really fun to play. It's usually the song I play to like test out a guitar. Great album. You got other hits like some like one of their best songs of all time. Also is a While My Guitar Gently Weeps, which is in this album. Phenomenal song. And then you got the banger, the the pioneer of metal, Helter Skelter, released in this album as well. Banger, super good. And then right after this, you have was it Abbey? Is it really Abbey Road after? I feel like I'm missing an album. And then the next album after this, which was also released in 1968. I know I'm running out of space, which was 1960. I also only ran out of time. Sorry, I'm cutting down my time a lot. This is a great band, which was really released in 1968. And another film that they made, Yellow Submarine, right? Oh shoot, 69. Whatever. 1969, they released their album Yellow Submarine, which if you're looking at this, you probably remember that their album Rubber Soul has a song called Yellow Submarine. It's the last song of the A side, the song that Ringo sings, and they made it a whole. They made it into an entire film. The song is also featured in it, but it's mostly the A side is like actual Beatles songs. You have songs like Hey Bulldog, which is one of my favorite Beatles songs, all together now. But then the B side, it's like orchestral. It's not a Beatles song. They're from George Martin, who's the producer of the Beatles. He's also regarded as being the fifth Beatle. Um, but it's a good album. I mean, I have it on vinyl, so I'm not gonna like bitch about it. But Beatles album, and then you have their banger, released in 1969, their final album, the last album that they made all together, Abbey Road. This is that one album where they're all like walking. Um, this shit was super good. This album also had their first like genuine medley, which is like a song that leads to another song that leads to another song. Um, this shit was good. It was also nicknamed as just being the long one. That's what it was originally gonna be named. It was just gonna be one big song as big or as the long one, but they were like, no, let's just divide this into parts. Um, it's that one song that's like, once there was a way to get back home. They want that the song that's featured in Sing, the beginning of Sing. Um, but this shit is so good. You know, I mean, literally every song is a banger. You got Come Together, Something, one of the best, if not like the best love song that they created. Um, you have Maxwell Silver Hammer, which is like regarded as being like one of the worst. It's so strange because while this is being regarded as like one of the best albums, it's also the album that has the song Maxwell Silver Hammer, which is regarded as being one of the worst Beatles songs of all time. Mostly because of how terrible the sessions were. I think I ever sent it to you. The fact that it took 3 days to record and like 3 solid days to record, and all three members were bitching about it. They were like, "Man, this song was terrible. It was blah, blah, blah." And then Paul's like, "This song took 3 days to record. Big deal." So yeah, and then you have it's like I feel like it's overhated, but they have this one song called like on this song, this album. There's a song called "Oh Darling," and like on the surface, like listening to it the first time, it sounds like kind of stupid, but like really listening to it, shit goes. So I was checking my time. Man, I've been rambling. Um, but it's really good. And then this is a song that the B side opens up to "Here Comes the Sun," um, because and then you have that long medley, which takes you to the very end of the album, and it's super good. The last song of this track, the last track of this album, is called "The End," which is like known for being the last Beatles song. There's a couple answers if you want to know what the last Beatles songs are, but we'll get to that in a moment. But the song "The End" is the last song that they all four original members in their prime recorded, which is kind of like obviously ironic, but like it fits for even like the title of the track, "The End." It was pretty good. Um, and then right after this, you have their last album that they released, but it wasn't the last thing that they recorded. It was released in 1970. Um, that was called "Let It Be." Let it, let it be. Now, while this concert was while this album was released after 1969, all of the stuff that was being like recorded and filmed, that'll make sense in a moment, was before Abbey Road. The stuff that they recorded during this sessions later became the music made for Abbey Road. Um, I know you keep hearing me say concerts because of like majority, like half of the songs of this album were from the rooftop concert that was in 1969. I think it was in January. Yeah, January 1969, where they hosted one final concert. Um, I actually don't know why. I think it was for like a film, but they had one last concert and they did it at the rooftop of Abbey Road Studios that they had to shut down early for noise complaints. Um, because it was creating like havoc. Because it was just out the blue. Like they were like, "Hey guys, rooftop concert on January. I think it was like January 9th or something. I know it was in January, but they didn't have like an announcement. They just did it out the blue, which was the point. Um, and this like crowd was like kind of like stormy. Like everyone was like, "Holy shit, that's the Beatles!" Everyone, because they haven't performed a concert since around this time, so everyone was shitting their pants. But nonetheless, you have songs like Long and Winding Road, Let It Be, "Oh Be Mine." This is actually a really good album. I actually love it. Um, Great album. But then it was like later like announced that I think it was before that they announced that they had broken up. But yeah, I'm like yeah, it was because at the same time that they released this album, like a couple weeks, um, Paul released his first album. I think it was either his first or second album, something along those lines. I can't remember. The timelines like kind of confused. If you would ask me this like a year or two ago, I would have told you with confidence. But my timeline's like kind of messed up right now. Um, so yeah. Now here has one. This album has one of the last songs that the Beatles recorded. "Oh Me Mine." Oh, no, not "Oh Me Mine." "I Me Mine." "I Me Mine." Now, there's a couple different answers if you want to know what was the last Beatles song. If you want all four members, you have to look at Abbey Road for "The End." While "I Be Mine" was recorded like during the Beatles were still together, John is not in this album. John is not in this song. The song that only has Paul, sorry, Ringo, Paul, and George. Just those three. So it's not all four members. And then you have their latest song, which was what was it called? Now and then. Now and then. Now, if you want to regard this as like, ew, gross. Now, if you want to regard this as like this being their last song because it was like the last song that they released, I kind of refer this as just this being their last song. But if you really want to get technical, the end was the last song that they ever recorded. And I think I like that answer anyway because it fits. Um, but also all four members, like while they're alive. I mean, for this one, two of them were dead, kind of. Like one of them was like still alive when they started recording. Ew, my stomach. One of them was still alive when they started recording it, and then they was like, let's just save this for later. And that's when they actually released it, what, 2 years ago now. But still a great song, and I feel like I'm running too much of your time. Wow, I really rambled on this about this one, huh? They're a great band, honey, and I can't wait to watch them with you. Okay, that's my time. Thank you for tuning in. My bag. Uh, okay, bye, honey. Love you. This has been the Beatles. I have to pee. Bye.